Alright, hey guys, welcome to another tutorial. Today we're going to go over some Matinee, some common uses for Matinee, as well as different things to use, just for level scripting, things like that. So we're going to go over, for Matinee in particular, just how to make camera groups, director groups, how to do cutscenes, a very simple cutscene. And we'll be able to do other things with Matinee for platforming purposes, or just for puzzle dynamics. So I'll basically break it down. Let's go ahead and play an editor. So the first thing is we're going to push this crate. We're just going to keep pushing it until it gets up against the wall. Now we can't push it anymore. So we'll jump up, and we see this thing spinning here. And there's a red light around it, so we can grab it, and it turns the light on. A lot of cool stuff going on. And then over here, kind of some ceremonial candles, things like that going on. We also have a broken chandelier and some fire. But if we try to pass the fire, we can't move, and we're just taking damage from the fire. So we're going to have to find a way to put that out. Then we see there's a room over here that's generated. Let's turn on both. We have a cutscene with the water filling up everything, and the water pulling off the fire and taking that out. We have this skin. Come back down here. And now with the water here, with no more fire, we can go ahead and get past that. And find a rocket launcher, which is really cool. And then we see this up here. We see a pipe. It's a fire coming out of it. It's a huge explosion. And then it's just the tutorial environment for the elevator script. So that's the whole extent of everything in this tutorial. We'll try to get them all, done. It's probably going to be a long one, but hopefully you guys learn a bunch along the way. So here's the Kismet sequence. It's quite a lot. I don't want to go through each one. It'll take a little too much time. So what we'll do, we'll just select everything and just delete it, just so we start from scratch. So the first thing we're going to do, if you notice, I spawned in automatically in third person. So there's actually a console command for that. If you don't know what a console command is, you hit the tilde key, you type in behind view. This whole thing is the console command, so you type in behind view, and then you got select third person. But there's actually a console command node in Kismet where you can do that automatically without you having to press that tilde key and type it in. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's right click, new event, and then level loaded. Now every time the level loads, we want to go ahead and do new action, misc, go down to console command, plug that in, and then when we click on the console command node, we'll see you can make as many commands as you want. They just have to be recognized by UDK. So the one for third person is just behind view, and that's one word. And I'm also going to add another console command for show volumes, just so we can see our volumes for our dynamic trigger volumes, things like that, just so it'll make it easier for us. But lastly, what we need to do here is then go ahead and hold down the P key and left click on target. You'll get an all players node, or variable I should say. And then with that variable selected, let's go ahead and uncheck all players. And that'll make it just for us. We're player 0. We're essentially just the only player in this level. So let's select them all, hit the C key, and I'm going to type in debug, and then third person view. So now we have that set up, so let's just move that a little bit out of the way. And let's just go ahead and hit play, and we should see now we're third person, and we see the volumes. And we'll just see the volumes just for testing purposes, and everything like that. So next thing we're going to do, it's going to be important for our Matinee animation. It's going to be attaching the trigger volume, our dynamic trigger volume, to our interactor. So if you're not too sure how to make an interactor, when you first bring a mesh into UDK and into your scene, it's a static mesh. But mine right now is an interactor. An interactor will be allowed to be referenced in Kismet, be referenced in Matinees, things like that. So basically, when you bring the static mesh in, if you right click and go all the way on the bottom where it says convert, mine says either to static mesh or to K-actor. Yours should say to mover, and that's our interactor. So once again, to mover makes it a interactor. And also with Interactors, if you go hit F4 with them selected, you'll bring up their properties. And if you type in collision, down here, by default, it goes to no collision, but we want it to have collision, so we move it back to block all. And then for the dynamic trigger, if you're not too sure, if you select any volume, if you want to get the builder brush to conform to that size, if you just hit Control P, your builder brush will then move to that location and to that size, which is definitely convenient if you need it. So for those who don't know how to make a trigger volume, or a dynamic trigger volume in this case, I'll show you right now. So I'm just going to delete mine, put my builder brush back into place, so it's like around the size of the crate. And let's go to volumes. Up towards the top, there's going to be a dynamic trigger volume. And then when we move our builder brush out of the way, here it is. And that's all we need to do with that. But let's first go ahead and attach that trigger volume to our interactor. So it's going to be another level loaded event. So let's just copy and paste it. Let's go to new action, actor, attach to actor. Let's go ahead and plug that in. And so our target is going to be our interactor. And then our attachment is going to be the volume itself. So select the volume, right click on attachment, and then do new object bar using that. So now we have them attached to each other. So let's go ahead and just comment that. Attaches volume to dynamic crate. So we have that going for us, which is definitely perfect. So now we gotta get into the meat of this thing. So the first thing we need to do is the touch event for this crate, or the volume I should say. So that recognizes it when the player touches the volume and untouches it, and then we'll be able to play the animation, things like that. So make sure you have your trigger volume selected. I'm just gonna open up Kismet all the way here. Let's go right click, new event using dynamic trigger volume 3, and let's do a touch event. First thing I do with touch events is I make sure that the max trigger count is at 0, which means it will fire an infinite amount of times. And then I also make sure, for this instance, we wanted to have a touch proximity of just the player, the pawn. And that's set up by, automatically. So the first thing we want to do is create a boolean variable, because booleans are awesome, I've learned, for when the player is or is not touching the volume. So let's right click, do new variable bool, and let's name this B is touching volume. And obviously it's going to be by false at the beginning. Let's go ahead and also create a named variable for that. And let's go ahead and copy the name. Now let's go to bool, and there's our named variable of it, just for organizational purposes, things like that. So the first thing we need to do is check if the player is or is not touching the volume, and so we have the touch event for that. So when the player touches the volume, we want to set that variable to true, and then when it untouches the volume, we're going to make that variable false. So let's right click, do a new action, set variable, and then bool. And then for touched, plug that in. So the target, let's go ahead and copy and paste that name variable as the target, and then the value, right click on that and create a new bool, but we're going to change the number 0 to a number 1 just to make it true. So now when we touch the volume, it makes that variable true. And we want to do the same thing, except for when the player untouches the volume, we want to set it to false. So bring that back to 0. And then under untouched, plug that in. So now we have that set up. But the last thing I want to do, if you noticed at the beginning, when I first touched the volume, it said press E to push. So let's go ahead and add that as well. It's going to require a special node here. It's called switch, so let's go to new action, switch, and then just switch. We don't want a random switch or anything like that. And switch is basically control inputs from an event and let those delegate to different things. So for this switch, say for example, we put a 3 instead of a 1. Now we have 3 outputs, and what this does, every time an event's fired, if we were to plug this in, every time the player does this, like as it just touches the volume, it'll do 1, 2, or 3, or many different things you wanted to do. So just for fun, let's go ahead and make some voice announcements. We'll name this 1, and then name this 2, and we'll name this 3. And basically with this demonstration, you'll know exactly what switches do. So let's go ahead and just see what this does. 1, 2, 3. And then it stops firing. So that's basically what switches do. It allows you to do different, strings, I guess, of sequences depending on how many times something has been touched. But for our purposes, we only need to do it once. So let's go back into our switch, change the link count to 1, and we're going to leave all the settings the same as well. We're not going to have it loop. We're not going to have it increment any way differently. It's going to stay the same. So with that plugged in, let's also get our another voice announcement out there. And in the text, let's just write press E to push crate. Or just press E to push. Should be enough. So we have that set up as well. So let's go ahead and see if that's working. And that is perfect. But one last thing we're going to do just for debugging purposes is copy and paste the level loaded. But then if we hold down the L key and left click, it'll give us a log. Let's right click on the log and do expose variable and do boolean. Let's go ahead and log our B is touching volume just so we know what it's doing. And just so we can get up-to-date information, we're also going to create a delay. So let's right click, set delay, and let's do 1 for 1 second and then plug it right into the beginning. And the last thing is we need a target, and the target's going to be a player. So let's just copy and paste the player 0 variable. And let me just highlight everything, make a comment. Debug variables. And there we go. So let's see if that's working. So there's our false, that's our variable. Now we're touching it, it says true. We're untouching it, it says false. Touching it, it says true. So we know that's working. Perfect. So let me go ahead, detach that for now. And we have this working pretty well. So let's go ahead, highlight all this, press C to comment, and let's do dynamic create, and let's just do touch events. So now we have the Boolean checking if we're touching the variable or not. I'm not touching the variable or not. We have the touch event letting us know whether we're touching the crate or not using that variable. And what we're going to do with that variable, because we want the player to press E to push the crate, we want to make sure that when they press E and they're in the volume, that the crate moves. So let's set up those events right now. So let's right click, new event, go under input, and then key button pressed. And then in the key button press section, there is an input names list, add a new item, and let's just do the letter E, and then hit enter. It doesn't matter if it's capitalized or not, I just capitalize it just to be safe. And then every time we press the E key, we want to see the condition of our bool at the time we do press E. So we need just that. We need a condition. So new condition, comparison, compare bool. Plug in pressed into that. And then our bool is going to be that B is touching volume. So copy and paste a copy of that. And then when it's true, we want to play our matinee animation. So let's go ahead and make that animation right now. So let's go ahead and select our crate. And then in Kismet, right click, do new matinee. And then double click that matinee to bring up the matinee editor. And this crate movements could be 64 units, forward. And it's going to be a 1 second long animation. So let's bring our timeline down to 1 second. And let's also bring our snaps down to 64. So if you look at the bottom there, it'll change from 64 to 128, however else you want it. And I'm using the bracket keys. So the right bracket key increases it, the left one lowers it. So let's get it to 64. Once we have that, let's right click, add new empty group. Let's just name this crate underscore movement. Right click on that as well and add a new movement track, and it gives us already a keyframe. So we only need to do one more keyframe at the 1 second mark, so hit enter. And let's go ahead and move our crate forward 64 units. And there we go. And I also want to add a sound effect to it. So let's go into our content browser. Let's go into UDK game and sound cues. Let's see if we can find a decent one. These are all body impacts. Let's see. Alright, so we just got to pick a random sound at this point. That'll work. So with that sound cue selected in our content browser, let's go back to Matinee. Let's right click on create movement. Let's add a new soundtrack. And then with that selected, as long as we do have something as a sound selected in our content browser, if we hit enter, we'll see it added there, which is perfect. So let's go ahead and hit X, and then what we need to do, plug true into play. And then there's two things we need to check for in this Matinee node itself. So select just the Matinee. Down here, let me open this back up. Down here we have two things that say rewind on play and no reset on rewind. Let's check both of those. And when we do that, basically what rewind on play does, it just tells the Matinee itself to rewind as soon as it plays, just so it can keep playing itself and instead of looping. So if we hit looping, we're basically see it create move, 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 and move. But if we do rewind on play, we'll see it move, and then we'll move, and we'll keep moving forward. So let me just show you that with, I don't want keep looping selected, but I'll show you what I mean with it being selected. So if I hit this once, we'll see it create move and keep moving. So that's what we want, except we don't want it to loop. And then the no reset on rewind, that basically saying don't reset the animation when we rewind it. So that's all it does. So with those two together, we'll be able to keep pushing it and pushing it and keep pushing it. And also, since we attach the volume to the crate, we see the volume move as well. So we'll be able to continually push it. So let's go ahead and see if it works. We want it to stop here, but we need to set up a new event that allows it to stop. But for right now, we can keep continually pushing it. So what we need to do next is the stopping of this animation so we can stop when we hit the wall and we'll be able to move forward. So I already have just a normal trigger volume here. If you're not too sure how to get to the trigger volume, let me do it again for you. Control P will give us the builder brush in the size and location of where my brush was. So let me go ahead and delete this one, and I'll put in a new trigger volume. So under volumes, all the way at the bottom, there'll be one that just says trigger volume, and that's the only one we want because we're not moving this trigger anywhere. So now with that selected, let's go back into Kismet. Let me go ahead, right click, do a new event, and do a touch event. We only want it to touch once. So we're going to leave everything as default except for this top part, the touch event types. Let me go ahead and bring this up a little bit. We don't want the pawn as the touch type, so let's X that out. Let's add a new one. And then what we need to do is dynamic trigger volumes. So dynamic trigger volume. We're going to have our volume that we're using for the crate movement. As soon as it touches this trigger volume, what we're going to do is tell it, hey, turn off the push event and everything like that. So let's go ahead, right click, new action, toggle, and just normal toggle. And then touched is turn off. And then the event output, let's go ahead and put it into our key press. So that's basically saying, hey, keep pressing it. You can do whatever you want, but as soon as these two volumes touch, we're going to say, hey, no, you can't press E anymore, and the animation's not going to play anymore. let's see if that works. So theoretically it should stop, but it's not. Curious as to why. Let's find out. Oh, okay, that's why. The dynamics SM actor is spawnable. We need to do dynamic trigger volume. Just make sure we have that correct. So let's go ahead and give that another try. So just keep pushing it. Should be the last time. But we're still able to push it. I wonder why. So we got the dynamic trigger volume. And then every time that's touched, maybe you have to do the max trigger count to 0. Let's see if that corrected. I'm not too sure about the details, so I have to kind of relearn what I did as we're going. But hey, it's a learning experience. It's fun. So let's keep pushing this forward and see if we can get it to stop. Still not stopping. Let's see here. Just for debugging purposes, let's just see if it actually, if the touch event fires. So let's just do touched. So let's see if that even fires. Debugs are your heroes. So on the next push we should. Alright, see, it's not even firing. Why is that? Let's see. Oh, I know why. Player only is selected. So it's unchecked player only. It should fire. Let's see. Still not going. Why is that? Trigger volume. Let's kind of break this down. So we have this trigger volume in place. We go into its collision. Yeah, touch all. Let me just move it to touch all. And then let's see. Everything makes sense. Why is it not being called? Let me also add interp actor. See if that changes anything. Alright, now it says touched. So I'm curious if it was the interp actor or not. So let's go ahead and push it again. A lot of testing going on. Alright, so it is only recognizing the interp actor, so let's go ahead and just make that the only one. And then go ahead and say turn off. So now once we hit the end of this, we won't be able to push the create anymore, and we'll just be able to jump over and move forward, basically. So let's just confirm this is working. Yeah, we're not able to push it anymore, so we're going to jump up and we move on here. And what we want to do is just have, this isn't, this is a power-up mesh, but it's just for us to grab and everything like that. Just for more fun. And I had it animated, and we'll do another animation of it. So let's do that now. But before we do, let me go ahead and organize this. Let's do input events. There we go. Booyah. Booyah. And then we have a variable here. So let's move them on up here. hit this one, say variables for sequence 1. That should be enough. So we'll go ahead and move forward. So the next thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and animate this so it just spins in a circle. So let's go into Kismet and make sure that mesh is selected. And obviously, again, it is an interactor, it's a mover. So with that selected, new Matinee, double click on that, bring up Matinee as well. And what we're going to have to do is just spin in a circle, just keep spinning. So let's right click on that, add new empty group, just call this spinning pickup. Then right click on that, add new, whoops, well, looks like every time you do that it crashes it. So that's not a good thing. So let's go ahead and open that back up. Fun lesson, don't pick that notify group, it seems. So, oh, I hit check now, so we just got to wait. My bad. I don't think I saved that either. So what I'll do in Kismet is I'll just erase the stuff that we haven't done yet. So let's go ahead and open up that level again. Alright, so we're back. And we were up at this point. Let me go back into Kismet. Erase all that. Then all we need to erase here is this part as well. Okay. Alright, so this is basically where we were last time. So let me go ahead and put that back up. So let's start this over here. We're back at this animation. So select the mesh, go into Kismet, right click, do new Matinee, double click on that Matinee, right click in the gray space, add new empty group, and just do spinning pickup. Forgot the underscore. Then right click on that and then very carefully add a new movement group. We're just going to be a 1 second long animation as well. So zoom in just so we can get the smaller time frames. And then let's just do at 0.2. Let's do a keyframe. And then let's go ahead and rotate this 90 degrees. Go to 0.4, add a new empty group, move it in another 90 degrees. Go to 0.6, do another 90 degrees, and then 0.8, do another 90 degrees. And this animation is actually just going to be 0.8 seconds long. So if we hit the top here, this one button here, if we hit loop section, it'll just keep playing that back and forth. So now we have it spinning. But also, let's check use quad interpolation here. This is just for making it spin in a circle a little better, smoother. So now we just see it. So if I uncheck it, watch how it kind of skips and slows. And then I hit use quaternion linear interpolation. Check that. And it's such a smoother spin. And that's what we need, which is perfect. So we have that animation done. And we want that to play throughout the whole level. So right click, new event, level loaded. Let's go ahead and hit play. And we also want to have a touch event set up here. So when the player touches it, the dynamic light turns off and the mesh disappears for the pickup. So honestly, like I said, it's an interactor, but it needs to have special collision. It needs to have touch all just so it can touch the player and everything like that. So let's right click, new event using that interactor. Let's do touch. It's only going to have, everything's by default is fine when you do this touch event because it's only going to fire once. It's going to recognize only the player, things like that. So once this is touched, let's right click, new action, actor, destroy. We're going to destroy that interactor, the one that's spinning. So having it selected, right click on target and just make that a new variable. And then also, we're going to turn off the light. So what we can do, since it is, if you don't know how to make a a toggleable light or removable light, you basically bring in a point light, right click on it, convert light, point lights, and there's your options. So all we need to do is just new action, and then toggle, and then do the turn off, and then have the light as our target. So then this should be enough, but we also want to do a sound as well. So let's go ahead, go into Content Browser, do Sound Cues, and just do Pickup, or just Pick. It doesn't matter. That's a good sound. So with that sound selected in our Content Browser, let's right-click, and then let's do New. Is it New Action, Sound, Play Sound. Put that into play. And then play sound, just hit that arrow and it'll have the one we selected. And then for the target, this actually, for the target, I just learned this today, the target it's asking for is just the object that the sound is going to be playing near, just relative to. So it's going to be to our pickup. So let's right click on that. And that should be enough. So let's go ahead and see if that's working. See how we have it spinning? And then we walk up to it, and we pick it up and the sound plays, and the light turns off, which is perfect. So that's the next part, which is definitely good. So let me go ahead and save. So the next thing we're going to do is setting up the blocking volume as well as the touch volume for damage for this fire. Just so, so we can't mess around with it or anything like that. So, this fire, I found it in my content browser. I just typed in fire and I found the particle for it. So I just picked that particle. So what we'll do is, how should we set this up? Let's go ahead and just delete these volumes. Actually, now let me reset the volumes. So first thing we're going to set up is our blocking volume. So let's hit the Control P, get our builder brush around here. Let me just move it up. I'm going to delete the blocking volume I have set up right now. Delete it, and then bring mine down again. And then with the volume selected, go to volumes. And we're actually going to make a dynamic blocking volume, just so we can delete it faster and easier. So we have that set up and it blocks us. But we also want to set up this trigger volume, so it's going to be the exact same way we did with the other one. So let's Control P. Just move that up. Delete this one we have. Bring this one back into position. And let's go. This one's just going to be a normal trigger volume. It doesn't have to move or anything like that. So now we have that set up. But now we need to set up the damage portion of it. So let's select our trigger volume. Go into Kismet. Let's go ahead and organize this. Let's just name this spinning pickup. We also want to make sure the spinning pickup is looping, so that way it will spin forever. So I forgot to mention that part, so I apologize for that. So as soon as you hit looping, you'll just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. So now what we need to set up is the touch event for the fire. So we still have it selected in our scene. So let's go ahead and right click, do new event using trigger volume, and then touch. And then we're obviously going to make this a max trigger count of 0, so it can keep happening until we destroy the volume. So now that it's touched, let's right click, new action. I believe it's under MISC. No, it's under actor. Modify health. So our target is going to be our player. Then player 0 in particular. And then to modify health damage type, let's just do telefrag. And the amount, let's just do 2 damage. And that should be everything we need in order for us to get damage taken every time we touch that volume. So let me go ahead and see. This will happen is we'll touch it once. Let me go ahead and spawn here. We're gonna touch it once, get damage, but when we touch it again, I'm not too sure if it'll work or not. It should, but let's find out. So yeah, I just took damage. So every time you touch it, you get damage. But if you stay in there, you don't remain getting damage. So that's what we want to add in. So I know for a fact it's a delayed loop. So let's do a delay. So if you hold down the D key, you'll get a huge delay node. So what we'll do is come out and start. And then under finished, let's go right back in. So every second we'll get 2 points of damage taken off. But if we untouch the volume, we want to stop this delay so it doesn't keep happening. So let's see if that's working. Once again, let me start over here. So I'm just chilling in the fire and I'm taking damage. But when I back out, I'm not taking damage anymore. That's what the good thing about the delay thing is. You can stop the delay when a certain part of the event fires. So we go back in, getting damage done. So at this point, the player's just like, how do I get this to, how do I get this to get the fire out? So one thing we want to do, because we don't want this fountain to be on right away, let's just, up here, this is our transparent tool. This will allow us to make selections for transparent objects. For the time being, I'm going to go ahead and just turn off, or actually we can ignore that particle. So let's just select our water fountain meshes. So let's see if we have them selected. Yeah, we do. And then let's select the second row. Oops. So do we have all of them? We do. Perfect. So what we're going to do, we're going to hit, let's see here, do we want to hit F4? How do we want to do this? Let me just go ahead and go in Kismet. Do a new level loaded event. So let's go ahead and do that new event. Level loaded. Then right click, new action, toggle hidden. So we're going to hide these objects as soon as we spawn in. So let's right click with all those objects selected. Here we go. So when we play, these fountains won't be there. There we go. So at this point, the player's like, I need to get past that fire. So what we're going to have to do, we have this trigger volume here. This trigger volume is just so when the player enters the room, what we're going to do is compare the values of if both triggers were hit. So let's go ahead and just set up the events for the generators and everything here. Let's go back into Kismet. Let's go ahead and just organize things a bit. Fire damage sequence. And then this here is just toggle visibility of waterfalls. And there we go. Organization is key. So, what we want to do, this will be trigger 1, generator 1, whichever you want to say. So selecting this trigger, let's go into Kismet, right click, new event, and let's do a touch. And then when it's touched, we want to do, also we want to do a used, we want to do a used event for this one as well. So new event, used. And then this one, for the touch event, we want this to be an infinite trigger where we can hit it as many times as we want. But for this trigger, one used, we want this to be only touchable once, or usable once, I should say. We also want to just choose the aim to interact. We want to uncheck that, just to make things easier for us, because that means you have to like aim at the trigger to use it, which is something we don't want. We also need a couple of boolean variables as well. So let's go ahead and make them here. New variable, bool. let's do B is trigger 1, or B is trigger underscore 01 touched. So now we want to just have it so, actually we don't need that variable now that I think about it. We want to do B is trigger 01 used. That's the kind we want. We also want to do these same events for the second trigger, so let's go ahead and add that now. So let's copy and paste these two, but then let's right click them and update them just so they go to the right trigger. And let's also make a copy and paste here. Just change the 01 to a 02. So basically now we're going to do some conditions. So let's open this back up. For the touch event, we basically want, when the trigger's touch for each generator, we're going to tell them, say, hey, if it hasn't been used yet, say turn on generator. If it hasn't been turned on yet, it'll say, you know, generator 1 used or generator 1 powered up or something like that. So let's do a new condition, comparison, compare bool. Every time this is touched, we're going to check to see if this first variable is true or not. So if it is true, actually let's go ahead and make name variables as well for these. Name variable, copy and paste the name. There's the first one, copy and paste that one. Just change the 01 to a 02. And there's our name variables. So 01. So if it is true, if it has been used already, we're just going to say a voice announcement of, let's go ahead and get that voice announcement. So if it has been used, we'll just say generator powered on. But if it's false, we'll do one that says press E to turn on generator 1. We're going to do the same setup for the second trigger volume, no, not trigger volume, but the actual trigger for the second one's touch event. We're just going to update the variable name. So let's grab trigger 2. And then the same announcements, except we're going to change, okay, it didn't type in the whole thing. We're just going to move, we're going to change the generator 1 to generator 2. And then basically, when this trigger is used, we want to set the variable to true. Let's go to set variable, bool, set that up. And our target will be trigger 01. And our value is going to be true, so just change it to a 1. Let's do the same exact thing. Whoops. For the second trigger, update the appropriate variable. So we have that all set up correctly, but the last thing we need to do involves the trigger volume at the very front here. This is just so that at the level beginning, it's not checking the values of these triggers or not. We just want to have, as soon as the player walks in, touches through that volume, we're going to start comparing the value of the two variables we created. And once they're both true, we're going to turn on the generator, and we're going to activate our camera event. We'll do all that. So let's go ahead with our trigger volume selected. Right click, new event, touch. And everything by default is going to be fine for what we're doing. We only need to fire once. And that's really it. We don't need to worry about that. And with the player being the one who triggers it, things like that. So what we need to do, every time it's touched, which is only going to be once, we're going to do a new action. No, we're going to do a new comparison, new condition of bools. And then let's go ahead and plug these in. And the bool, we're going to do both the trigger 1 and trigger 2 bool. So let's go ahead and plug that in. So basically, if these are true, we're going to play all these events and everything like that, but if they're false, we're going to set and activate delay and go back in. to compare them again. So we have a loop. Every time they're false, we're going to keep checking. We're going to keep checking. And since we have 2, even if one is true and the other one's false, it's going to say as a whole everything's false. But once both are true, it's going to output our true event, which is going to be this circle ring, I guess you would say. That one starts spinning, and we have the camera event fire, and we have all the events taking place. So that's going to be the more complicated section. So let's go ahead and just, first things first, let's go ahead and just make this spin in a circle. So with this ring selected, I'm going to right click, do new Matinee, double click on that Matinee. We're going to do the same exact thing that we did for the pickup, except just in a different kind of rotation here. So add new empty group, and let's just do spinning underscore ring. Right click on that, add new movement. And then this is going to be 0.8 seconds long. So let's just go ahead and start rotating it 90 degrees at a time. If you guys find an easier way to do this, let me know about rotating 90 degrees. Well, you know how I rotate 90 degrees 4 times in a row. If you can find it easier, let me know. And we're also gonna use quaternion linear interpolation just to make it as smooth as possible. So let's go ahead, loop section. And there's our spinning ring, which is perfect. So let's go ahead, get this all set and ready to go. So we're going to do a couple things here. Let's do a couple of remote events. So let's right click, new action, event, activate remote event. And we're going to just name this spinning ring. Go into true. And then right underneath here, new event, remote event. Copy and paste that name. Paste it in there. Then go ahead and press play. And then in the Matinee itself, let's just hit looping so that spinning generator ring spins indefinitely. So delete this and bring it back just so they have check marks. We should be set, and we should be able to see these, activate the generators and get that thing spinning. And then we would be able to move forward and do the main sequence of the camera and everything like that. So let's just double check to see if that's working. So we saw the image working. So I pressed E. Doesn't seem like it's working. I think it's possibly because of our input key here, because the used for these triggers is E. So let me go ahead and try to make these go an infinite amount of times first, just to see if that corrects the issue. And let's also let's do a new variable. No, not variable. Let's do another announcement just for troubleshooting here. Trigger 2 used. Copy and paste. Whoops. Let's do that. Trigger 1 used. Let's jump back in. So that's not registering. I think it's because of this touch event, this keyboard event. So let's actually change it from E. Let's just change that to number 1. Let's just see if that still works. If we move to number 1. Not working. So let's just change the letter to like letter P. That should be working. It still is. So let's just then change the play announcement to press P to push. And then our triggers up here should work now that E is not, through Kismet being bounded to something else. There we go. And there's our spinning circle. Pretty fancy stuff. But we also want to have the generator kind of hum, make noise. At least I do. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. Let's go ahead and search for a sound that makes sense. No, I'm not too sure which one I need to find. Pretty sure it's downwards. Let's just find a loop. This will definitely help us out. Here's a good looping sound. Stop sound. Into Kismet we go. So basically here's our spinning ring. So we want to basically be playing the sound too. So right click, new action, sound, play sound. Go into play. And then our target's going to be just our, we can make it to glass just so it'll just play around there. So that should be good. So let's see if that noise comes up or not. We don't really hear it. We also notice the play announcement being, we don't need the play announcement anymore. So let's go ahead and just change it from the static mesh to our dynamic actor for the target. Let's also do the volume multiplier to 2 just so it's loud. Now we can hear it. So let's see if that's working still. Need to touch that. Oh, the reason why the play sound's not working is just because we haven't played a sound. I am so out of it. So down here, let's just add our sound, and it will work from there. But I also want to add a sound to every time it's used, each trigger. So let me go ahead. Let's go back to our content browser. Beep. That's a good noise. So back into Kismet, right click, new action, sound, play sound. Obviously, put the sound in, play. Just move this up. And then the targets are going to be different for each one. The trigger 1's over here, so we're just going to make it associate with that one. And then the same with this side for the other one. So now they should beep every time we click on it. So let's go ahead and do that. Start out here. And there we go. So that section's working too, which is perfect. So let's go ahead. Put these all up here. Variables, sequence 2. Let's put those to the side. And then let's go ahead, put this one in its own comment. Spinning _ring. Then And we want this to be in its own separate section because that's what we're going to keep working on that. But this can be all selected here together. So these are generator events. Let's go ahead and move that up into place. Let me also move these a little bit to the side. Okay, so the next part is going to be our cinematic. So in order for us to make a cinematic, we're going to need a camera actor. Mine here is in the wall, so let's just delete that. So in order to get a camera into our scene, we have to go into Content Browser, Actor Classes, and if you just type for camera, you'll see a camera actor. So just select that, and I just right-click and add a camera actor. And then we want to position this in a way where we'll see the scene properly. So in order to do that, the best way, there's this eyeball icon here that says lock selected actors to camera. So select that, and then whichever actor you select next, you'll have control over in a first-person view. So as you're moving, you're bringing and rotating the camera with you, or whichever object you select. So I'm going to select my camera, and when I do, as we can see, whoops, I guess I'm already the camera. Yeah, so see, there's our camera. So let's do that again. And how do we want to look at our scene? So basically, you want to look at it like this, or somewhere around here. Once you have your camera in place, uncheck the lock camera view button, and you'll just see where our camera is. Right now, it's in the wall, like it was before, just because that's where the best view is, and the wall doesn't get into our way. So now that we have our camera set up, we need to make a special matinee. So let's go in. Let me go ahead and move this up a little bit. So right-click, New Matinee. Let's double-click on that. So we have our camera selected, which is good. So let's right-click, but now we have to add a new camera group. And let's just name this Fountain Camera. And it gives us options for field of view angles and movement if you want to move the camera. For this one, the camera is just going to be stationary. It's just going to be looking at our scene. So we want it to be roughly a 6-second camera animation of it not moving. So let's just have our movement track selected. Let's just do the final keyframe right where it is. So that's all we need for this to show up into our camera. But there is one more thing we need. Right click, add a new director group, and create something up on top. So what we need to do is add our camera. And there's our camera shot. So if we play it, it shows us right here. That's our camera. And after 6 seconds, it'll stop. And that'll be the end of the cutscene, I guess you would say. So that's all we need for that. So we have our camera set up, we have all that good and ready to go. But we need to do one couple of things actually here. So let's add a new remote event. And let's just do this, let's just call this cutscene. Spell cutscene wrong. Plug that in. Now let's create a new remote event. Call it cutscene. So let's go ahead and add that. And just update that properly. Then we're just going to hit play. So let's just see how that works so far. Just see if we get the generator up and running. If our camera cutscene will play, where obviously nothing's going to happen. There we go. There's our cutscene. Honestly, nothing's happening at the moment. But then we're back. What else we need to turn on is cinematic mode. That's just so our player is hidden and we can't run into the scene or anything like that. So let's go to new action. Where is it? No, it's under new actor. Toggle. No. It's new action, then toggle cinematic mode. So we're going to enable it now. And then for the target, it's going to be the player. So let's get our player variable in there. And then it's going to go right into play. And then after it's completed, we're going to turn it off again. So disable. There we go. So now we have cinematic mode turned on and everything like that. But now we need to worry about actually, toggling other events as well, just so it looks legit. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a couple events in here. So the first event is, let's go ahead and select, actually it's just, in the fountain camera, to right click and add new event. And in this event track, let's get started at 0. We're going to name this turn on underscore top fountain water. And then we're going to wait a couple seconds. Create a new event, name this turn on underscore lower fountain water. And then when we do that, if you look here, actually, we did something wrong. Let's go back to our event. Let's actually open this up all the way. So the first event's going to be turn on top water. So let's right click again at the top of fountain camera. Let's add another event. This second event is going to take place. It's going to take place at about 1 second. Let's just do turn on underscore lower water. So now we have that set up. Let's see. Here we go. So we have turn on top water, and then we have turn on lower water. So basically what we're going to do there, let me go ahead and move this out of the way. So the top water, that's going to be these guys. Let me just turn on real time. So this is our top water. So let's just make sure we have them selected. We do. So back in Kismet, we're going to do new action, toggle, and then toggle hidden. And we're going to unhide these guys because they're hidden at the moment. And there we go. And we're going to do the same exact thing for the lower water. So let's copy and paste toggle hidden. And then we're going to unhide the lower water. So let's select the lower water. Make those the targets. And there we go. So let's just see if that's working so far. So that is working so far. But I kind of want to move my event for the second one a little further back, just because it comes in too quickly. So just move it to maybe something around there. It's just gauging it from your own perspective here. But I also want to play the water sound. But that's going to be done differently. What we're going to do, let's move these guys back a little bit. And let's go into our content browser. Let's just type in water. Here we go. This is the water we want. Stop sound. So let's go back into Kismet. Right click, new action. Let's go down to sound, play sound. And then we're going to play it. And then our target, it's just going to be, it doesn't really matter which our target is. Let me first get out of Matinee. So for our target, just choose this one. So it should be fine. So let's see. And also, let's go ahead and add fire to there for us, fire noises. So let me go ahead, go back into content browser, type in fire. That's the perfect sound for it. Let's go ahead, do Kismet, and then level loaded. Let me set that up here. Right click, new event, level loaded. Right click, new action, sound, play sound. Make that our target, play. And then for the target itself, let's just select this guy. And then I didn't add that water sound, so let me go back in. Water medium. Go back into Kismet, add that in, and then we should be good. So let me see if I play right now if the fire noise is playing. It is perfect. So let me go ahead, put this, put that towards the top. Let's just do fire sound. We're going to have to stop that soon too, so let's go back to our main sequence here. So now we have the water fountain kind of turning on and the sound playing. We got all that working, so let's go back into that Matinee. To create an empty group, let's call this water puddle. Right click on water puddle, hit add new movement track. Actually no, first we need to select the water puddle in our scene. Mine's underground here. So this is what my water puddle looks like. If we were just to bring it up. So what we're going to do, we're just going to animate it up just so it comes out of nowhere. So having that selected, let's go add new empty group, water puddle. Right click on that, add new movement track. And then we're going to start, we're not going to have it move until the other events have already fired. So I believe at 1.8 is when they all fire. So let's go to about 2 seconds to 3 seconds. So basically we hit the 2-second one, we're not going to move anything, just so during the animation it stays put. So from 0 to 2 seconds we're not moving it, but then from 2 to 3 seconds we're going to move it up. And there we go. And then back at top here, so at 3 seconds is when the water comes in. Let's go to the fountain camera. Let's add a third event. Actually, we don't even need to do that. Let's go ahead, select the first fire. So we may need to select it. There we go. So with that fire selected, right click, add new particle group. Let's just call this fire _ 01. And then at 3 seconds, just go ahead and turn it off. And then we're going to do the same thing for fire 2. So select the second fire, right click, particle group _ fire 02. And then at 3 seconds, turn it off. So now if we go back into Kismet and look at our Matinee, we have a couple things going on. We have the camera, we have the water puddle, and then we have the two fire particles. So let's go ahead and watch that, see if that's working. And we see that it's working. So what we want to do now, I believe if I'm thinking correctly here, let me go ahead and save this. What we need to do now is, this is our light for the fire itself. So what we need to do is, once it's done, actually, let's go into our Matinee again. So basically, we turn off the fires at 3 seconds. So let's go with our fire here for the, for the light for our fire selected. Once again, that's a toggleable light. Let's go right click, add new lighting group, and just do fire _ light. And then one of its parameters is brightness. So under brightness at 3 seconds, let's do one at 1 second, then another one close to 3 seconds, and then one at 3 seconds. The one at 3 seconds, the value is going to be 0. So if you watch this, the light's just going to turn out, which is what we want. It's fine. And then what we need to do now that the fire for the light is out. Why are these fires not working? Let's see if they work when we're playing the editor. They do. Okay, cool. So now that the fire light turns off, we want to turn on the water caustic light. So I'll show you what that is. It's a very special kind of light. So if you right click, it's a point light movable light. But if we hit F4, there's actually a light function in there, and light functions are a way for you to kind of, I guess, project a material using the light itself. And that's how we get that certain lighting effect. I'll show you the source material. It's something that comes with UDK, so it's a water, caustic water. And then you just create a function and then add that material to that function. So if I were to, right now it's disabled, so if I were to enable it, that's what the light looks like. So I'm going to disable it again. But what we're going to do in Kismet, let's just move things around a bit. Is we're going to turn that light on. But first we need to change its physics. So physics to interpolating, just because Matinee yells at you when you do that. Let's see. Oh, it's talking about that light. It's talking about this fire light, so let's do the same thing here. Physics to interpolating. So with the caustic light selected, double click on Matinee. And let's do a new event for the fountain camera. Add new event. So basically we want it to turn on at 3 seconds. So let's add that turn on caustic light. So now with our light selected, just do new action, toggle, and then a normal toggle. Turn on, and then to target is going to be our light. And then the last thing we need to do is turn off the sound for the fire. So I'm just going to do new remote event. Now let's just do turn off fire sound. Do that, connect those together. Then go back to our fire sound, new event, remote event, turn off fire sound. Just make this a little bigger. Stop. Boom. Just update this. Alright, perfect. So I believe that is almost complete. What we need to do one last thing is we need to destroy the blocking volume and our touching trigger volume. So let's select those together. New action, actor, destroy. Then right click and just make those two there. So let's see if that's working. So we still have the fire going, damage being done. But now if we go up here, perfect. And now we can get 5. So we know that's working as well, which is totally awesome. So I'm glad that's working. So there's one last bit we need to do, but before we do that, let's go ahead and clean this up. Let's just make this main cinematic. Let's go ahead and move that into place. Okay, So the last thing we're doing before we end this tutorial, now this tutorial's been quite a long one, but it should be over very soon. The last thing we need to do is the firing effects of everything over here in the rocket launcher and things like that. So the first thing is, if you're not too sure how to spawn in a rocket launcher for your level, you bring in what's called a UT weapon pickup factory. This can be found if you go into content browser under actor classes. If you just type in weapon, you'll find the contact, the factory, everything like that. And then when you look into the properties of it, you'll be able to select what kind of content's in there, like the link gun or the shock rifle or the rocket launcher. Right now we just want the rocket launcher, so if we spawn in here, we should just see the rocket launcher spinning, just chilling, and we'll be able to pick it up. And then when we pick it up, we'll be able to fire, and it'll make the wall explode and things like that. So the first thing is we have set up, we have another trigger volume just near where the particle effect's coming out of. So what we need to do with that trigger volume is go into Kismet. Let's go into some open space over here. Let's do a new touch event. So new event, touch. And then what we need to do, instead of a touch, my bad, it's a take damage. So let's do new event, take damage. Now just make the minimum damage amount and the damage threshold to both 0. And then for damage type, let's go ahead. We're going to select UT rocket, which is right here. And so when it takes the damage, we want it to fire an event. Just to make sure that the event is firing off, let's put an announcement in. Just say event fired. Plug that right in. Let's just see if that's working really quick. It is perfect. So when the event fires, what we want to have happen, we have a bunch of particles here. These two right here in particular, these are explosion particles. I'll show you which one each one is real quick. So this one explodes. And then this one's another form of an explosion. It's a general explosion. And I kind of increased their sizes just a little bit, just to make them cooler looking. But I'll bring them back to all ones. And I'll just make these guys 4 times their size. Or 3. 3.5 would be good. But what we need to do with these explosions in Kismet, let's do a new action toggle, and just a normal toggle. Let's turn on these guys. Just select them both. So let's just see if those particles explode. And it does. Perfect. So what we need to do then, let's go ahead and turn. Let's see here. We need to unhide these guys, these pebbles. These were set to hide in their default not input, but properties. So if you go to hidden, there's a display and then hidden node. Well, not node, but checkbox. You check that, they'll show them in the editor or not. But then what we need to do is, let's go new action, toggle, toggle hidden. Let's unhide. Let's unhide these guys. And the last thing we want to do is our wall itself. This is a fractured mesh. It doesn't really matter. I made it a fracture because I wanted to see it kind of explode, but that didn't work. So all we're really going to do with that one is go to new action, actor, destroy, and then our target's going to be the wall. And that should complete this final section. So let's just see if that's working. There we go. Now we're back into this room. So that is everything. So let's just do this comment last section here. Destructible wall. And let's just put that into place. And that is everything. So let's just break everything down one last time. Let's go ahead and play in editor. So we switched this to the P key just because the trigger events before were giving us issues. So we have this working. Let's go ahead and drag this across. And then we have it stopped. We'll jump up. Now we can grab this pickup and the light turns off. Come down here. The fire is causing us damage. We're not able to get through. So we go up here. Turn on those. And then we got our cinematic. Now we're back in business. But as you can see, we kind of lost our third person, and that's just because of the cinematic mode being turned on and off. But I'll fix that in a second. We have the wall destructible, and then we're back in here. So that is everything, but what we want to do, let's just copy and paste our console command. And when we turn on cinematic mode and turn it back, when we turn it back on, let's also put back console command. So let's just test if that's working really quick. Just want to be thorough, and then this is going to be the end of our tutorial. So let's go ahead and see if that works. And we're back in third person. Perfect. So everything is working. So I hope you guys learned a little bit more about Matinee. I try to use it in kind of a unique way, get you into some cinematics. Try to make a cool environment as well. Every time I make these tutorials, I try to do my best to make some sort of like interesting environment for it to be tested out in. So I hope you definitely guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, just like the video. Please share as well. Comment with more, ideas for tutorials, any questions that you guys have about UDK. More than happy to help you answer those out there. Also subscribe if you haven't, and definitely helps. And we're getting a little bigger, getting a lot more views, everything like that. So I definitely appreciate all the support. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks again for watching.